Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I'm here to tell you about an awesome way for you to rub elbows with your favorite podcast hosts here on the Sports History Network, while at the same time rooting for your hometown team this upcoming NFL season. You've been hearing all about our partner, Tailgate Fantasy, the past few weeks. Well, dig on this. Tailgate created a special Sports History Network league for our listeners, so we can put the word fan back into fantasy football together. It's free to join, and if you do so before the season kicks off, you'll automatically be entered into a drawing for a free t-shirt from one of our other partners, Home Field Apparel. It's a win-win-win! So hurry up today and head to sportshistorynetwork.com/tailgate for all the details. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/tailgate.
Blog Talk Radio.
Tonight we will go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score that would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and its memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises. We're live from the Wallingford, Connecticut home of Gridiron Greats magazine, and I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America that focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 140-plus years of football history and memorabilia. And you can find us on the web at GridironGreatsMagazine.com. We are sponsored, in part, by MSB Sports Cards. Check out their website for one of the largest selections of vintage football and football memorabilia on the web at MSBSportsCards.com. And we're also sponsored in part by BST Auctions. If you haven't already, check out their auction currently going on at their website and register today. BSTAuctions.com. It is at this time I'd like to introduce my co-host, who is a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in free World War II items, in particular red grain, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Larger. He hails from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show this evening.
Ambassador, good afternoon, sir.
How are you, Joe?
I'm doing good. Another great show. Looking forward to it. I really enjoy the for those listening. You know, Bob and I usually get together before the show for about 5+ minutes and just talk. And then about half the time, I give Bob a call afterwards, and we talk about the show and talk about other things. I've said this 100 times. I have the best seat in the house. I get to talk to the ambassador of football, the captain, Bob Swick, about football for a full hour every couple weeks. I'm a lucky man.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you being my co-host. You are a wealth of knowledge on several very, very critical and important vintage areas, especially Mr. Grange. And tonight we're going to kind of backtrack a little, obviously, I think before you were born, to a time where there was very little information going on about what was being issued as far as football cards and things of that nature. And we talked very briefly about this during the week. And I'm going to talk tonight, and we're both going to talk about the 1972 Topps football card set and how there was a third series of those cards that many, many people, like myself at the time, had no idea were in existence. And to give some background on Topps and football cards, basically they would come out, and they were coming out starting with the 68 set in more than one series, basically two series. And I really assumed that in 1972, the three places where I used to buy my football cards from, one was a little drugstore in North Branford, the town I grew up in, and the other two stores were in Branford, which was the town right next to us. One was a candy shop and one was a little magazine bookstore. And both of them didn't have anything more than the first series or the second series of the 1972 Topps set. So I always assumed that.
And Bob, did the first and second series come out at the same time, or did they trickle those out?
No. It came out. It was basically cards 1 to 132. And I honestly don't remember, but I'll make an assumption like 4 or 6 weeks after the second series was out, and that was cards 133 to 263. So I always thought my Topps 1972 set, as the years went on, was complete at cards 1 to 263. I really never saw any information on a third series. I didn't really know anything more than that. Now, for those people who don't know me and know some of my background,
that's two standard sheets. That's two standard 11 by 12 sheets. I have an uncut 1972 top sheet, and it's a standard 11 by 12, 132. So the first two series, if there's no double prints, would be 264 cards. Okay, all right. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Okay. Now, all right. So hold that thought, because I'm going to ask you about what I'm going to explain now. Now, for those people who are tuning into the show for the first time or who don't have enough background on me, I have basically kept very, very stringent notes over the years about cards I bought and about different sets that I put together over the years, and in particular what I paid for cards over the years at the same time. Now, I went back in my notes because I talked about the 1972 Topps set, and in particular, the third series to the set, which I did not discover until 1979. I was at a card show, and a dealer told me there was a third series. He had one card from it. That card was number 319, and that was in excellent condition, and it was a Chandler of the Buffalo Bills. And he charged me at that time the incredible sum of $3 for the card, which I was a little taken back by, but since I had never seen and knew nothing about the third series. So I started on a little hunt, and again, back then you had no
How much of
internet.
How much of a shock was that when you're like, he goes, when you see card number 3, whatever it is. Yeah.
I was pretty taken back to finding that there was an actual third series. And again, it was really tough getting information. Now, I'm going to fast forward. According to my notes, in 1982, obviously the baseball card explosion brought out more information with football cards, that there was the third series printed. These cards were cards 264 to 351. Now, according to your uncut sheet, the first two series were 132 cards each. This third series, I would assume, is what, 88 cards?
88, which is usually, which means 1/3 of the sheet is a double print. That's pretty standard.
All right, so then, in that case, the cards 264 to 351, which apparently was this marketed third series for the 72 Topps set, I started getting more and more information on it. And at that time, I did realize that the most expensive card in the third series was going to be a Joe Namath Pro Action card, card number 343. So I over the years would be looking at them, picking them up, so on and so forth. So now I'm going to fast forward now to 1987, and I started collecting the third series with a little more urgency, let's say, because I'm saying to myself, these are pretty rare, and I'm only finding maybe 2 or 3 a year at a card show. None of the card shops I went to at that time, I was only, like, at that time, back in the early 80s, probably 3 card shops that were in existence around here, not before the explosion in 88 and 89. And none of them had, I had picked over the one inventory of the card shop that he actually had, maybe 2 or 3 at the time. The other 2 didn't even know what I was talking about. And I saw a hobby advertisement for Fritz cards out of Wisconsin to purchase. You could purchase single cards from the 3rd series. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I put in an order, and I sent in. I know I had to send in a money order. I couldn't send in a check because he held the check. So I said, well, let me send the money order, and let me get my cards quick. Now, fast forward back in '89. A couple months go by, 3 months go by, 4 months go by. I'm not getting any order from them.
Right.
Then I called a couple of times. They said they'd get back to me. I finally called, and again, it's long distance back then, yada, yada, yada. It's not like today. And I finally was told they're not available. We found your money order. We're going to mail it back. So,
and these were wax packs you were trying to buy? What were they you were trying to buy from Fritz? They're wax packs, correct?
Some of the 3rd series of the cards. He had them singles for sale. So I probably put together an order. I didn't write it down because it was a canceled order. Probably over $100 worth of cards from him, which weren't, I didn't buy any stars. But basically, I was trying to pick up the commons. So I get the check back. I get the money order back, and I had to go through the hassle of getting the money back on the money order. And then I see the ad for the cards with the higher price about a year later, and all the cards I wanted to buy in it. So how they ever came back is beyond me, but I'm going to point out 2 different theories on that 3rd series, one of which was published in Sports Collector's Digest in 2013, that according to the lore, 50 cases of 15 boxes to a case were sold to Fritz by Topps at $5 a case because they wanted to get rid of them. I also have another point in my notes that he got between 75 and 100 cases for the cost of the freight to get them out there. So I have no clue as to how many are actually he bought. If we go by the published SCD article, it's 50 cases. If we go by the scuttlebutt that I heard at a few major shows that I went to back in the 80s, it was between 75 and 100 cases. I do not know, with the exception of some Midwest distribution, where those 3rd series boxes ended up, nor do I understand why they were in the Midwest rather than on the East Coast, basically Pennsylvania, where Duryea, Pennsylvania was when they were printing the cards and shipping them from there. And logically, in Connecticut here, I would have assumed I would have found some of the cards back in 72, and there was nothing anywhere whatsoever. So it's an interesting story, but I want to get back to the uncut sheet. Your theory on the 3rd series, if you have any, as far as the printing sheet is concerned, based on the 132 cards that you see in your sheets 1 and Series 1 and Series 2.
Correct, yeah. And I was just jotting some stuff down while you were talking. The set is 351 cards, correct?
Right.
So it came out 1 through 264 within a couple weeks of each other. So the first 2 series, 132 and 132, which would be 2 11 by 12 sheets. And then card number 265 through 351 came out, which is 86 cards. So what I was trying to do is go, 86 cards on an 11 by 12 sheet. Because, that's a stock of cardboard. They don't want to go get a smaller piece of cardboard just to do a 3rd series run. So, and that's definitely a double print. So the, probably 1/3, 1/4 to 1/3 of that 3rd series is a double print, likely. Since there's only 86 cards on a 132 card sheet.
Right. So again, there got to be double prints in that 3rd series. I'm also wondering, too, why the heck they went to the 3rd series for the simple reason, and let's go back in history. 1972 cards.
Yeah, and weren't you saying it was like 6 or 7 weeks after the second series came out, the third series came out? By then, people were out of money. I mean, there's something that young guys like me, and I'm 46, by the way. I was born in 1970. But I definitely wasn't collecting cards when 72 came out. But I mean, like when I started collecting in 79, 78, it came out in one series. So Topps learned their lesson by trickling these things out in series in 1972. And after that, said, to hell with this, let's dump them all out at once.
So
the word is...
1973, you're correct, because that is the first year of just one series wax box, or one series rack. I'm pretty sure it was rack packs in '73, and again, the series was gone. The series was eliminated from it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Topps learned their lesson in 1972 because sales were horrific, is what you've told me and what I've heard of third series 72, to the point where it cost more to ship it back to the manufacturer, which is where Fritz picked it up. So Topps took a bath on the third series to the point where they learned their lesson after that. So that's fascinating.
If you go back, and I don't know, and you probably are aware of it too, on older wax boxes up to 1987, the infamous black magic marker marked through the box was a return box.
Yeah.
Back to the company, which somehow got back into the market, being sold to other dealers at very low prices. And then again, I'll relate a story to this as far as returns. It was very common in the late 70s and early 80s, Fleer in action football cards were returned back to Fleer. They were not marked with the black marker. However, a lot of dealers ended up sending to people who would buy whatever they ordered packs or boxes of the Fleer in action to get rid of them. And what is interesting about that, when we're way off subject here, is that most collectors didn't collect the stickers inside. They collected, obviously, the cards. And now the stickers, to a certain degree, are more difficult to collect. Unlike the third series, which to me are very, very rare, to say the least. I finished that set, believe it or not, in 1991. So it took me a long time to get that third series.
How rare is that third series still nowadays? How rare is it still?
I don't think it's as rare, because I did a couple of searches on eBay, and there's a lot of third series for sale. And over the past, I want to say 10 years, I've handled some upgrades to my third series, because honestly my third series are X to near mint because of the way they were cut and some of them being handled, so on and so forth. And there were, to me, a lot of surface creases in the cards, and I think it's just the way it was printed and or cut type of thing. And
would it be safe? Yeah, would it be safe to say that most third series never hit the, kids barely opened it? Let's say, a tenth of what series 1 and 2 were. So most of the third series 72 Topps football cards out there are wax. Somebody has opened and they've purchased. So different demographic opening third series.
I checked the Fritz website yesterday, and they are not available for sale. So I would assume he sold out what he had, and or B, he's just holding on to them type of thing. But C, I don't see the great demand for them as they were back in the late 80s and early 90s when you had the football card explosion, and all you saw was Series 1 and 2 type of thing. I haven't seen many either over the years, complete 1 to 351 sets of 1972 Topps available either. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're there, but I just don't see them with any regular on a regular basis as compared to like a 76, 71, whatever. You know what I mean? And then 73, you're going to find them. So
talk about having some foresight, Fritz. At some point, he's like, that's an investment. And at some point, he had the foresight to say, I will buy all this, and I'm going to sit on it for 20, 30 years or whatever it takes, but one of these days this will be valuable. Is that good for the hobby or bad for the hobby? And I'm sorry, we are getting off track, but, would these have ended up in a landfill or a dumpster if he hadn't have taken them?
Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's again. It wasn't It was not widely collected. Number one. Number two, there were virtually no card dealers at the time. So why tie up all that money in inventory? And C, you really needed a warehouse or some pretty good space if you're going to take that amount of of inventory in wax boxes, just to to hold on to them type of thing, which he did, and he had the space. He still has the space to this day. So I just find it pretty interesting with regards to the sheer volume of what
you're driving.
Again, if you do the math, 15 boxes in 50 cases, you're looking at roughly 750 wax boxes of these cards, and X amount of cards in the pack. So there's really maybe 9,000 cards out there.
I think I mentioned on the show before. I bought a bunch of 1988 Topps football from a guy in Seattle. I live in Portland, and I know everybody just shook their head and went, 88 Topps football, why? And I would agree with you. I don't know why. But basically, he was trying to sell them at like $2 a box, and you think he had 70 boxes, 60 or 70 boxes. Nobody'd buy them because a box is $2. By the time you ship them to the East Coast, it's useless. And I told him, all right, I'll take it, but you have to meet me halfway between Seattle and Portland. And I hadn't wrapped my arms around what 60 boxes of 88 Topps football looked like. So I met him, and he starts loading them into I was driving a Ford Bronco. And 60 boxes of wax football weighs a lot. And my Bronco looked like a pregnant rat driving down the road. It weighed a lot. It was so that gives me an idea of how hard it is to move 50 cases of football.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot. You're absolutely right.
Well, what I can envision the tractor trailer pulling up to Stevens Point there, and on skids wrapped all these wax boxes of the 72 high series. Well, I believe our guest is available. I'd like to introduce him at this time. Our guest is well known in the football card and memorabilia hobby and industry, as he is a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats magazine. He's a co-owner of MSD Sports Cards, and he's also co-owner of BSD Auctions. He's also been a guest co-host for our podcast. He hails from Ohio. I'd like to welcome to our show a good friend of ours, Mr. John Spano. John, welcome to the show this evening.
Hey, thanks, Bob. How you doing, Joe? Good to talk to you guys.
Doing good. John said good friend. I would I don't know. I'm gonna pump the brakes on that one.
Well, let's get right into it.
You didn't send me a link to the auction, John. You lost good friend status.
Hey, I'm sorry. The catalog wasn't enough. Did you get a catalog?
Yeah, I did. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wow. I'll take you off the mailing list for the next one.
I'm sure Joe set some sniper bids available, and he's gonna be bidding on some serious stuff there. But John, I'm going to back up from the auction for 1 second, and I want you to think about this. In your opinion, what does the football card and memorabilia market look like to you in 2017 today? Do you see trends? Do you see strengths? Do you see weaknesses? What's your overall take on the market?
If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said that this whole thing, that the grading card company, specifically PSA, was going to collapse into a heap of plastic. But that's still going strong. That's what's driving us. That's what's driving our bidders. That's what's driving our consigners and consignments. That is the force behind just about everything that is going on in the hobby right now. And as much as I don't want to say it pains me to say that, because I understand, people want clean cards. People want, numbered cards that are rarities, even though they might just be condition rarities. That it's still going strong, and it's a machine that I don't see stopping anytime soon. We just received a huge consignment, football graded sets from the 60s and 70s for our next auction, all PSA slabbed. I heard you talking about bulk, Joe. I have a couple of those sets that came in to me just a few days ago, and I can't even imagine. I mean, you can imagine people that don't have things in quantity slabs, how much this weighs just to handle. One single set.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I used to, I'm a slab, well, I used to be a slab collector, and it used to just, it would impress me / dismay me to see how much that stuff weighed and how much room it took up, Yeah, no.
No, it's, and that's where I would have to say the focus, the main focus of collecting is right now. Even from the guys that I've been dealing with for the last 10, 15, 20 years that are vintage collectors, still a lot of them, want the nice high-grade material, and I respect that. I mean, it's as long as it's legit and they're happy with what's in the holder. Nice cards are nice cards, and it's just a way for them to compete. It's a way for them to keep track of things, and it's driving the market for sure. The prices keep going up, and I don't see anything stopping that. Now, ask me 5 years from now, and we'll probably say, hey, let's replay what John said 5 years ago as everything's collapsed around the graded card market. But I don't hope that happens. I think that there's still a lot of people that are getting into it. It surprises me a little bit.
Well, all right. So my question then, and as both of you guys know, I'm the dinosaur in the hobby. I still like my cards with 9 pocket sheets, and I know I'm probably throwing away maybe $100 million by not getting my cards graded or whatever.
At
but
least.
In reality, okay, is the market going to reach a point? And I tried to parallel it to what I saw at the Nationals this past year. Is the market going to reach a point where the ungraded card of any sort is going to be available for sale? Or do you actually think that everything is going to be, let's say everything graded number 5 and up is going to be slabbed, and everything 4 and down, unless it's a rare card, is just going to be basically thrown to the furnaces type of thing? What's your take on that, if any? That's a good question, Bob. When I look at the hobby today, and again, the percentage of cards graded, I'm sure some people have thrown estimates out there. What percentage of 67 Topps football cards are graded? What percentage of 56 Topps football cards are graded? The higher grade stuff, I think, is making its way into slabs. And when we receive that material, unless I get specific directions from our consignor that they want to sell it as a raw set, I go through and I cherry pick not only the star cards, but the cards that are low pop and cards that are going to bring some higher dollars, because that's going to bring more money for us and more money for our consignors. So I'll tell them, we'll grade a certain amount of cards for you. It's going to help you out, and that's what we typically do. I have had a couple consignors tell me that they want to just leave their stuff raw. They're fine with that, and they bought it raw, and they'll sell it raw. And if somebody wants to have it graded after they buy it, that's up to them.
That's interesting.
So in theory, then, if which I never will, try to sell my collection, the actual run, my best bet would be to take and probably call PSA or SGC and tell them, set up in our guest room here, because you got 28,000 cards I want you to grade, and then ship them to Ohio there for consignment with BSC type of thing.
I'm sure there's a train line that runs between us. It is, Bob, and that's the reality of it. And you stand in lines at the shows, and I know Joe's done this, and I do it almost every year. It amazes me to see the things that are in people's hands as they're walking up to those grading booths. Some things that I would never consider even putting in the holders, but they want them holdered, and somebody wants their little niche in the hobby. I have the highest graded this set, and nobody else even has one graded, but that's the way things are, and I understand that. There's a lot of people that as we get older, I'll speak for myself. The competition that fueled us in other arenas when we were younger, it still burns in you a little bit, and some people do it this way, and I understand. I understand completely. They want to beat that next guy. I'll give you a quick example. I have one collector who buys from us, and he has specifically told me to leave things on the website because he knows that the person that is next to him, number 2 on the list for the particular set he's after, as soon as he sees it disappear, knows that he's going to be trying to make a move. So he tries to do it all in bunches. He'll list the last 15 cards that he upgraded at one time, and then they make moves. And best of my knowledge, this has been going on between these 2 collectors for the last 10 years. So
the registry is a hell of a drug.
And then
it certainly is.
In my book, my registry is a nice Caribbean island for 10 days and come back home rested. So it's a different handle for a lot of people. But I hate to throw that out, but in reality, okay, so we've gone to the graded concept. It's very firmly embedded in the hobby, and again, as much as I fought it, I continue to fight it, I guess, because I still have very little interest in it, except for the Mayos graded in SGC, but then their numbers are every conceivable which way. I got 20s that look like 50s. I got a 40 that looks like a 10. So it's almost illogical to me in a way, looking at
Bob,
it. But it is what it is, and that's it.
Some people get stuff slabbed. I mean, like, me, I get stuff slabbed. I want a provenance to, I want to know what it is, displayed. So when I hand it to someone, they're not, well, what is this? Well, it's Red Grange's, last college game. Oh, okay. If it's on a label, it's easier. And mostly nowadays, I want to physically protect my cards, where a top loader won't do it. So, moreover, I'm getting stuff graded more to protect it and, just to label it than I am because I give a crap about a registry.
No, and I agree, Joe. That's definitely another, and I think that's another way to look at it as far as a collector goes. I have a lot of material graded too, and don't want to be morbid when you say things like this, but if God forbid my wife ever has to take care of my collection, and I hope she never does. A lot of the things that I have graded will be a seamless transition for her. Just to move those on to somebody, and it just or whatever. If I pass them on to my children, whatever happens, whatever I end up keeping in my collection. So that does make it easier. The labeling part of it, at least. So for sure.
So John, I want to talk about your auction, your latest auction, my friend, my good friend. So I pulled a couple numbers off your auction here. 220 football lots. And then you have some other crap for sale, obviously, some other sports. Couple of the highlights in there. 1926 Shotwell Add-Back Red Grange, card number 9B, as it is, with the 77 and the pearly whites being flashed. The 49 Leaf Uncut Double Sheet, which Mike Blaisdell and I have talked at length about. I think the story is he pulled that out of a dumpster at a card show, didn't he?
Pretty much. Yeah. It might have been by proxy, Joe, but that's the story with that piece. I know that for sure. That was a dumpster dive. Yeah. Yep.
You've got some Packer Walker cleaners from 1932, and you've got some 1928 SPCs. You have 7 of them. Some pretty good things. That's just the football, obviously, which is all any of us care about. Like children, you shouldn't have a favorite, but when you put together an auction like this, when you put together a catalog as you're writing descriptions, as you're perusing things and taking pictures, what are your favorite, what's your favorite lot or lots in this auction?
I mean, this was a great auction because we not only do we have, Mike Blaisdell's material still going, but we received a number of nice late consignments at the National. One guy from Green Bay in particular who just showered us with Packer stuff, and it's going to be in our next auction as well. All the way from Aaron Rodgers rookie cards, which there's 6 of those, which are getting a lot of. We've had a lot of people sign up that probably would have never signed up for the auction just for those 6 cards. All the way back to old programs, signed programs. There's a 65, it's a 66 NFL championship program, the one that got the Packers to the first Super Bowl, signed by Lombardi, and probably about, I think, 7 or 8 Hall of Famers. So, I mean, it's incredible. Just an unbelievable piece.
Is that the program you showed me at the National? I don't remember now.
We had a number of them there, Bob. But, yeah, I'm sure I showed that to you. I probably would have gone out of my way to show that program to you. So, I mean, it was pretty nice program. Yeah, I mean it's and obviously just looking at Mike's stuff. This auction, next auction, I plan on having a little more 19th century material. There's a few things. There's a pen cabinet that is just absolutely humongous. One of the biggest cabinets I've ever seen. I believe it's in 1886.
Wow.
And just a number of, as you said, you mentioned the Shotwells. There's Shotwell wrappers, Shotwell boxes, both Shotwell sets.
Yep.
Not to mention, and this is, I wrote a little article for Bob probably about, I don't know if it's 6-9 months ago, about embracing, football collectors need to start embracing printers' oddities and rarities and freaks and whatnot like the baseball guys do, because we have a nice one in the auction too. It's a ghost image on the back of one of the Shotwell cards. It's just really neat piece. And again, it's so rare to begin with those cards that it's kind of hard to tell somebody that you need to start looking at like for the T206 guys in baseball, there's one little letter that's askew, and they go nuts over it and command 20 times over the price. But at the same time, it's really kind of a neat piece with that image printed on the back of the card and the front of the card. And again, somebody might think it's trash,
So, waiting for your answer on which one's your favorite, John.
I don't know. I'm going through them in my mind right now.
You're so politically correct.
It's right. It's sickening, isn't it? If I had to pick something out of the auction that I would want for myself, it would probably be the Packers program, the one that I mentioned first. That I think is just a significant piece. It kicks off the Super Bowl era. It has the signature of probably, and arguably, even though some people might disagree with what Belichick's done, probably the best coach of all time. I know Bob's not going to argue with me about that.
No, not at all.
And my favorite player.
You said the right thing, John. So you said the right thing. So.
my favorite player on there too, and a lot of guys who know me closely know that I'm a huge fan of Jerry Kramer, and so excited to see. And I don't know if you guys discussed it on previous podcasts or not, but he's a seniors nominee this year, and I'm so hoping that he gets in. His signature is beautiful and bold on there too. So just a great piece. Just a great piece. One that you could
Bob?
Just think about being passed around the locker room or wherever it was passed around. All these guys.
Bob, do you have a feeler bid on that, or are you registered at BST yet, Bob?
I do have a number, or whatever the procedure is. I have bid in the past. I'm holding
Bob
back on my bid.
Paddle number one.
Yeah.
Bob's paddle number one. I thought you told me a long time ago. John, you told me a long time ago, I forget, I think we were in Chicago, that somebody was bidder number one, but you gave me an inside track. I think I'm like bidder number 2 or 3 on BST, aren't I?
Yeah, I think bidder number one is actually one of the auction houses or the software managers person. They it's a semicolon as bidder number one. she did that as a test, and I haven't been able to remove it as hard as I've tried. But yeah, you're right up there, Joe. You may have registered first or second. So
right on.
Unbelievable.
But yeah,
there's
the
a
auction
couple.
more excited. Go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say there's if you can, I'm interested in. If you have any, I'm trying to find it right now. I'm looking for it. You have a group of some very, very old photos from, oh boy, I'm trying to find them. Al Graber, All-Stars.
Oh, Graber.
Can you have any background on those?
The only background I have on them, and I didn't put any of this in there because, you have to have some level of responsibility as an auction house person, because you start putting out anecdotal stuff and you get yourself in trouble. But I'll share it with who's ever listening and us. Those teams, Al Graber's All-Stars, had some close association with the Rooneys, that being Art Rooney and his brothers. And I was told that he's in a couple pictures, but nobody could tell me who he was. And as much as I looked as closely, there's no way that I can make any positive identification. But those teams played against Rooney's teams, and Rooney, they were interchangeable parts, the semi-pro teams, the Sandlot teams in the Pittsburgh area. So those are, Al Graber was a Pittsburgh area boxer and a promoter. He owned a baseball team and a semi-professional football team. And in addition, there's also a lot of the Bradley Eagles, and that's another suburb area outside of Pittsburgh. And those are some really, really, really nice pieces. And for somebody who wants to dig in and do some research on early professional, semi-professional football, there's ledgers in a couple of those lots. There's notes on, who sold tickets, which I found interesting, and I'm glad actually you brought that up. Never dawned on me. They actually would credit the players if they sold tickets, and they have on the ledgers, this player sold 7 tickets before the game, and they have a number next to his name. So I don't know if they added that to his salary or they shared part of it with the salary, which also lends some light on those pieces that we sold from the Oorang Indians with the player's name stamped on them. Those were vouchers.
Yeah.
I thought, but maybe those were tickets. So when those tickets got returned to the handler, okay, well, Joe Guyan sold 12 tickets, let's give him, $3 or something like that on top of whatever salary he made for the game. So you find it's interesting things you figure out just looking at all that. So those are great lots, in addition to the pictures, which are totally great display pieces. You have a lot of information behind them, too.
I really enjoyed going over those games. I probably spent like 20 minutes just looking at every detail of those game summaries, of the ticket, sales of that. That was fascinating, different areas, different, it was pretty interesting. And the percentage that the home team got versus the visitor versus the NFL's take on it, I mean, what was that, 3%? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yes.
I want to point out, too, to our listeners, something that is collectible that you shouldn't really discard if you are truly you really want to improve your collection, or you want to make your collection be more understandable, is catalogs like BST Auctions and several other auction houses that go into the detail and have the photography of the pieces are the greatest reference tools you can have, much better than any type of price guide or anything like that. And I gotta tell you this, John, that the last 3 auction catalogs that you had are just incredible pieces of history of football, and this one especially. Seeing the write-ups and seeing what you have there, it's just amazing to me. And again, if you're into football and you want a reference, this is the catalog. These are the catalogs you need to hold on to. It's not like you've got a Sunday night auction you're coming out with every week. I mean, this is something that is basically once every 10 years and once every 20 years to see come out, and to actually see the pieces and have a photograph of them as a reference, which is amazing to me, especially the older photos, the older programs, things of that nature. So that was very, very well done.
Thank you. And a lot of these pieces, as you said, Bob, are going to go into collections, and who knows when they'll see the light of day again, if ever. Because a lot of the stuff that Mike had and a lot of the stuff that we're turning up organically, very rare. And again, you asked me at the beginning, the first question you asked me, where's it hot right now? It's definitely hot with the slabs. But the second thing I would go to are these very eclectic one-of-one pieces, this original artwork, ledgers from old football games that happened almost 100 years ago. And those are the kind of pieces that, if you get those in your collection, it just, again, not ever telling anybody how to collect, but it just adds so much. It's just they're character pieces. It tells you a lot about what was happening. So.
Yeah, Bob and I a couple weeks ago were talking about how go for it, Bob.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Bob and I were talking a couple weeks ago about how stingy some football card collectors are, where they tend to get stuff and then keep it. So, like you just said, who knows how long until this stuff sees the light of day again. I mean, not very often you get a collector like Mike Blaisdell breaking up his collection. I mean,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking through it now as I browse through, and we have a 32 Brooklyn Dodgers contract offer because there was no draft in 1932, and they would send out letters to the players they wanted to play for them with offers in them, and it was kind of high stakes. Whoever sent out the best offer, if the player was interested in playing, that's where they would go. And it's an interesting how they word it. On the front of the envelope for this lot, they mention him as the all-around All-American end. That's how they addressed him on the front of the envelope. It's, it's trying to schmooze him a little bit, I guess, but it's very, very interesting.
Are the Brooklyn Dodgers a football team?
Yes, the Brooklyn Dodgers football team.
Football team, okay. Very good. I like it.
And what I was going to point out before is that old paper, photographs, the programs, the ticket stubs, the actual contracts, the letterheads, the envelopes, is so rare, and I'm just so surprised it's just not overly collected in the market. And I think it's great that you've been bringing up several of these types of pieces, like that Graybar set of photos, because to me they're exceptionally rare. You just don't see those items. Even if you go to like flea markets, you go to old antique, or you can go to antique shops or whatever, you really don't see any of that kind of stuff. Let alone see something from vintage football or vintage games like that type of thing. So it's amazing. It's really amazing.
John,
it takes you back.
John, takes
you back. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh no! I was gonna. How do you and Andy split up duties at BST? I mean, because it seems like it's almost a full-time job trying to find consignments, trying to get your website and your catalog ready for the next auction. Storing stuff. I mean, it's got to be almost a full-time job.
It is. It can be. It depends how you make it. And Andy, I have a nice arrangement. And basically our contracts read, our unofficial contracts, other duties as needed. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Andy will say, hey, I can't do this week. You have to do it. And I'll say the same thing. I'm going this place. I have this going on during the week. Can you return this phone call? Can you grab this? Can you do research on this item? Can you call this person? And it's just,
that's cool.
We've actually, it has, and it's worked out well for the almost 8 years now that we've been doing between MSB and BST. It's been pretty much flawless as far as that goes. Thankfully that him and I are flexible enough to work together like that. So, and as far as storing things goes, he has the capacity to store things, and we have, we have a vested interest in a few banks and safety deposit boxes for the high-end material to keep that safe for our consigners. So that's another thing too. But it's constantly changing. It's very dynamic, and it's it depends what you get in. I'd love to get a box of PSA 8 graded Hall of Fame rookies in. I could put them on my desktop, but as I was saying, in my dining room right now, as I go through these, there are a couple football sets that take up a decent amount of space. And as soon as I'm finished with those go back off to the warehouse. So, it's one thing after another. So things come in and things go out.
That's pretty cool. And it's got to be just impressive, the stuff that you see, the breadth of the stuff that you see that you collect. I mean, between, MSB and BST, you guys are pretty much, the auction house when it comes to football. It's your expertise. So when somebody wants to sell something, like you said, kind of something esoteric, you're going to get the call. So, it's got to be very cool that, the stuff you see.
Oh, it's been great, and it's kind of a collector's dream. Sometimes I wish I could take a deeper breath and kind of smell the roses, so to speak. But the things that have gone through my hands in the last 5 years, especially since we started the auction house, things I never even imagined touching. I'm sitting here looking at, I'm doing research on, I'm taking a close view and passing them on to the next person. It's kind of collecting, quickly and letting it go. And another auction house owner and myself sat down for a little bit at the National this year, and we both talked about how it feels it's kind of being honored to be able to hold some of this stuff for a while, because, ordinary, there's no way the volume material I would, unless I hit the Powerball, would be able to afford all this material. So it's nice to be able to hold it for a little while and enjoy it, and then pass it on to somebody, pass it on to another collector. So.
Truly amazing. John, put you on the spot. What do you think the market's going to look like in 5 years? You briefly mentioned it initially, tying in the graded market. What do you honestly see 5 years from now, if anything?
So I get to play Warren Buffett right now. Let me think here.
I've got my pen in my hand, John. I'm hanging on every word.
Buy. I honestly, what I just said, I believe, though. I think that if somebody is getting into this, and we'd all be liars if we didn't say we weren't watching what the market is going to bring or what we think the market's going to bring when we purchase these items. Collect them because we love them, but at the same time, there's a value behind it too. I'm hoping, and that the paper, Bob, that you and I talk about all the time, the tickets, the programs, the old guides that seemed to peaked a while ago and seemed to have kind of flatlined a little bit. If I were buying today in 2017, I'd be gobbling that stuff up right now, because when I talk about things that come through my hands, I can't tell you how many Bart Starr rookies I've held in the last 5 years. But a 1933 Pittsburgh Pirates program, I've held 2 of those in my lifetime. And I had one for sale for a while, and it's still for sale on MSB's website. And that's the first season from one of the most, arguably one of the most storied franchises in the NFL. And and people are still kind of balking on it, like, the condition's not so great, and like, okay, find another one. That's don't want to say that out loud, but that's if you can find another one, great for you. But for the most part, so to answer your question directly, Bob, I think in the graded stuff I feel is going to continue, and 5 years from now, especially when NFL in the next 2 years goes through its 100th anniversary, you're going to see an increased interest in historical aspect, and people are going to want historical artifacts. So that would be, yes.
I'm in full agreement with the paper items. I think they're way undervalued, and even the old illustrated footballs from the 30 magazines, any program, any ticket stub, any photo, they're rare, and if you got a chance to buy them now, to me they're undervalued in comparison to where they're going to be probably 5, 10, 15 years from now.
And to your point, John, I mean, look at that, Grange number 77, Shotwell card. It's beat to heck, but it doesn't matter. It almost makes it a little more nostalgic to see it beat to heck.
Somebody enjoyed it. Somebody had a good time. Somebody played with it. So.
Yep. Some of the Shotwell cards, those are very, very sensitive. They're thin cards. I mean, to see a good-looking PSA 2 or SGC 30 card it's kind of cool. That's almost the norm. No, you're absolutely right. So, I've kind of an off-topic question, John.
Sure.
I forget. I think it's Heritage that just ended, and there was several cards in there that went for a lot of money. Jim Brown 9, a Unitas 9. Those became, really, big 6-figure cards. What do you think is the most expensive football item right now that that could possibly come to market? Like a Nagurski 9. There's one floating around out there. It's closely held, obviously, but just name something. I mean, if it was Vince Lombardi's hat autographed by him with provenance from the first Super Bowl, kind of thing. What do you think would be the most expensive football item?
A Canton Bulldogs Jim Thorpe jersey. First thing that pops into my head. If somebody could find one of those and attribute it to him, game worn with his number. I forget, what number do you wear, Joe? I can't remember off the top of my head. Was he number 2, 3?
I thought he was 3.
Remember.
Yeah, that's 3. Yeah.
But if that came to market, it would have to. I don't know. The Nagurski 9 might compete with it now. I would say that Nagurski 9 went for what, $350 privately. That might be a $500,000 card today. And I think a Thorpe jersey would hopefully compete with that. And that's maybe a Grange jersey, a Grange 77 jersey. I can't imagine what that would sell for either. I mean that would be, but those would be the kind of items that would even in a catalog with full of baseball stuff would take away from what's in the baseball catalog, auction catalog. I think so. So
I hadn't considered a Thorpe jersey. That's interesting. That's pretty cool. Boy, that would be amazing.
That's the first thing that popped into my head. Oh, it would. It would just the colors and everything. You can only imagine. Just how absolutely gorgeous something like that would be, and just thinking of the man wearing it. That's all.
The man in his prime. Well,
John, we're almost out of time. Any final thoughts on anything we've gone over, other than if you haven't registered yet for the auction, I highly recommend it.
www.bst-auctions.com, and we actually are trying to maintain a Facebook page as well, and go on there. We get constant updates about what's going on in the auction. So I'm trying to move into the 21st century, Bob. I know you consider yourself a dinosaur, but I think I'm right there with you sometimes. I'm a little bit younger than you.
John, I have to page you so you can call me on your landline when I want to talk to you. Come on.
Smoke signals.
That's why I couldn't recognize the number when it came on. There was so many different digits there, so that was interesting. Well, John, thank you for being on. Good luck with the auction. We'll definitely be in touch with the markets and everything else going on. And I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule for talking on the podcast tonight. And again, if you haven't seen the auction, get on there, look at it, bid on it. There's a lot of one-on-ones that you're not going to see for many, many years ago that are available. Unbelievable.
Always a pleasure, guys. Appreciate the time.
Good luck on the auction, Johnny.
To talk. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Bob. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay, you're welcome, John. Thanks for being on.
Take care. No problem. Bye-bye.
John Spano, our guest tonight. Incredible discussion on the market. An incredible discussion as far as the auction is concerned. I know, Joe, you're eyeing a few items on that auction. I am going to be very secretive as to what I am going to be possibly bidding on at a later time over the next couple of weeks. But I'm just taken back when I got the catalog in the mail and I started looking at it, and I just said, "Wow, this is just incredible to see. Incredible to see a lot of one-on-one things that just don't come to the market in any way, shape, or form." And the other quick comment I'm going to make, and I know we've talked about this in the past, it's to me so much easier collecting today in an internet age than it was 25, 30 years ago. Or is it really taking some of the glamour out, type of thing? I don't know.
I'd be on the fence about that too. Yeah, that's a good subject.
Still the physical type of person going to the paper shows, going to the flea markets, going to the antique shows, and and I don't want to consider myself, and I'm not an American picker type person, but I think the thrill of the hunt is finding it and buying it type of thing. And I don't know, for me, I just as stuff becomes more and more difficult to find, but yet it's relatively easy to find on the internet. It's just not the same thing for me. I don't know. I guess it's just me. Whatever.
Well, it's not. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's interesting because hearing John talk about the things coming up, you do realize there's rarity. And when you and I were emailing a couple days ago about some things to talk about, I was what do you consider rare? What is extremely rare?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a subjective thing. I mean, you mentioned there's some one of one, there's some one of two cards coming up here. A pop 2 card. I mean, of one of the biggest stars of football, Grange. I mean, is available here. It doesn't come up very often. And most of us in the hobby know where the second one is, and it's not coming up anywhere anytime soon. A lot of us know where that Bronco Nagurski 9 is. We know where a lot of these high-end cards are, and we know that they're not making an appearance anytime soon. So it's kind of interesting.
It's truly amazing to me to see that kind of stuff. And again, looking at all the different auctions out there, and there's a ton of auction houses, and there's a ton of things that are available, and on and on and on and on and on. And then you get something like this where you actually see something that you never really see in the market. It's nice. It's a nice change of pace, and it's nice to see as a longtime collector and as a longtime follower of collecting. But I still believe that we're down to 2 minutes. We're in our 2-minute warning. I still believe very strongly photos, ticket stubs, programs, football guides from pre-World War II are just so rare. And to me, they're so unappreciated in the market today. It just amazes me. So I'd still say that's going to be an area where it's going to pick up one more time. And I think there's going to be some renewed interest over the next 5-10 years on it. I could be wrong, but I think paper is going to be very much in demand over the next few years. So we'll see what happens
let me look
with
at
that.
There's a program in that BST. It's like an 1890 Yale program. I'm looking at that. I'm like, that thing is 125 years old, and it's a piece of paper that has survived. It's one of one.
Yep, it's amazing. All right, we're down to a few seconds here. I just want to thank our audience for listening, and as a reminder, we are sponsored in part by MSP Sports Cards. Check out their website, mspsportscards.com, and on what you heard, BST Auctions were also sponsored by them, and their website for this auction, bstauctions.com. We're going to be back toward the end of the month with our next show. I'm taking a well-deserved break. Brenda and I are going to get away for a little while, and I know, Joe, you got a big thing planned in November, which we'll be talking about in the next show. But in any event, we'll be talking in a few weeks, and our next show will be coming up. And I'd like to thank everybody.
Bob, when I think about you on vacation, I think of you wearing a Green Bay Packers Speedo on the beach.
Far from it. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.